I want to talk with you for a few moments about something that is so close to the surface of the human heart, and yet so deeply hidden in the inner sanctum of consciousness. It is a phrase known to millions, repeated by countless lips through the centuries, often as a plea, sometimes as a comfort in the dark of night. The Lord is my shepherd. And because it is so familiar, the world believes it understands it. The world hears it and pictures a kind man with a staff, leading gentle sheep to green grass and still water. And that is a beautiful picture. But it is not the truth. It is not the power. It is not the secret. The secret is this. That statement is not a description of a distant God. It is the announcement of a present activity. It is the recognition of a divine, invisible force that is the very substance of your being, the very core of your intelligence, the very source of your supply. It is not something you hope for. It is something you must come to know as the very eye of you. This understanding does not come from reading the words. It comes when you are still enough, when you are silent enough to let the words read you, to let this truth unfold from within your own being and reveal that you are not a beggar at the gate. You are the very dwelling place of the infinite. If this touches a chord within you, if you feel the stirring of this truth, then I must ask you to perform a sacred act. Do not let this moment pass you by. Let your presence here be known. Subscribe to this channel, not to follow a person, but to dedicate yourself to this inner journey, to remind yourself that you are on the path. And then come down into the comments and simply place the number 23, not as a mere number, but as your silent witness, a symbol that you are one of the few who are ready to move beyond the picture to the profound, living reality. Now, consider how we ordinarily approach life. We operate from the standpoint of being a separate entity, a physical form with a mind, navigating a world that is external to us. We wake up in the morning, and the first thought is often, what must I do today? What problems must I solve? What burdens must I carry? How will I ensure my security, my happiness, my peace? This is the consciousness of the sheep, the one that needs to be led, the one that is perpetually in a state of lack or potential danger. It is a consciousness of duality where there is me and there is the world, and I must find a way to manipulate the world to get what I need. This is the level at which most people understand the psalm. It is a comfort to the sheep, a promise that a stronger, wiser being out there will take pity on me and guide me to better circumstances. But the revolutionary secret, the truth that shatters this entire paradigm, is that the Lord is my shepherd is not a statement about a relationship between two. It is the recognition of a fundamental, non-dual reality. The Lord. This is not a person, not a being separate from you, sitting on a cloud. The Lord is the very substance of all being. It is the infinite, divine consciousness, the creative principle of the universe, the I Am. And this I Am is not your shepherd. It is your shepherding. It is the activity itself. To say, the Lord is my shepherd, is to acknowledge that the very core of your being, The very I that you are is this divine, intelligent, sustaining activity. You are not the sheep hoping for a shepherd. You are the embodiment of the shepherding consciousness. Let this sink in for a moment. It means the intelligence you express is not your personal, limited intellect. It is the infinite mind of the universe functioning as your awareness. The love you express is not a personal emotion you must struggle to generate. It is the very nature of divine love flowing through you as your capacity to connect. The supply you need, whether it be an idea, a solution, or a tangible resource, is not something you must go out and wrestle from a resistant world. It is the substance of the universe, formed and presented by this same invisible activity, appearing as your daily manna, your green pasture. Think of a challenge you are facing right now. Perhaps it is a financial uncertainty. The human, sheep-like reaction is to panic, to calculate, to scheme, to look at the barren landscape and feel fear. We try to become our own shepherd, relying on our own limited understanding and power. But the truth we are speaking of here invites you to a radical shift. Instead of looking at the problem, you turn within. You become still. You acknowledge, not as a hopeful wish, but as a spiritual fact, the activity that governs the universe, the infinite divine intelligence, is my intelligence right now. It is the only shepherd there is, and it is the reality of my being. It knows the way where I see no way. You are not asking a separate God for money. You are abiding in the consciousness that is itself the source of all form and manifestation. And from that stillness, an idea may come. An opportunity may present itself. A door may open that was previously invisible. This is not coincidence. This is the shepherding activity in motion, forming your supply. Or consider a moment of relationship conflict. The sheep consciousness feels hurt, defensive, and seeks to either attack or retreat. It sees another person as the problem. But the truth of the shepherd reveals something else. You realize that the same divine consciousness that is the I of you is the I of the other. There is only one I am. Therefore, your peace is not dependent on the other person changing. Your peace is the very substance of your being, established in this shepherding presence. When you turn within and rest in this truth, you may find your words changing, your heart softening, or a clarity emerging that dissolves the conflict without force. The situation is shepherded from within the one mind, not negotiated between two separate minds. This is why the psalm continues, I shall not want. It is not a promise of future fulfillment. It is a statement of present spiritual fact. In the consciousness where you realize, I and the Father are one, where you know yourself to be the very expression of the shepherding activity, there is no sense of lack. Wanting only exists in the belief that you are separate from your source. When you know you are one with the source, the feeling of want dissolves. You may still have human desires and goals, but they are no longer born of a frantic sense of lack. They are the natural unfoldment of the divine activity expressing itself as your life, drawing to you what is for your highest experience. This understanding transforms every moment. Walking down the street, you are not a physical body moving through a material world. You are the divine consciousness, the shepherding activity experiencing itself as form and movement. The people you meet are not strangers. They are appearances of the one life. The work you do is not a means to an end, but the creative activity of the infinite expressing itself through your unique faculties. There is no longer a sacred and a profane. All is sacred because all is the unfolding of the one presence. The rod and staff that comfort you are not external disciplines or rules, but the innate, intuitive knowing within this consciousness that gently corrects your course away from the illusion of separation and back into the harmony of your true nature. This recognition that God is the very substance of your being leads us to a profound and practical truth. We have moved from the concept of a shepherd as a separate entity to the realization of a shepherding activity that constitutes our own consciousness. Now, we must ask, what is the nature of this substance? It is not a physical thing, not a material that can be quantified or stored. It is the living, breathing essence of intelligence itself, the fabric of pure awareness from which all form and experience are woven. To know this is to understand that you are not a container for this intelligence. You are a location where this infinite mind is functioning, conscious of itself. Your very ability to reason, to perceive, to discern, to be aware. This is not a personal faculty you created. This is the divine mind in action, and it is the core of what you are. Consider the act of genuine creativity. Whether you are an artist facing a blank canvas, a programmer staring at a complex problem, or a parent trying to find the right words for a troubled child, the sheep consciousness, the sense of being a separate self, feels the weight of the problem. It struggles, it strains, it tries to force a solution from its limited storehouse of knowledge and past experience. This is the agony of personal responsibility, the burden of believing, I must do this myself. But there comes a point of surrender, a moment of exhaustion where the personal sense of I gives up. And in that stillness, that quiet desperation, something else flows in. An idea appears fully formed. A solution presents itself with a clarity that was previously unavailable. A warmth and wisdom fill your words. This is not your personal intellect achieving a victory. This is the evidence of the shepherding activity, the substance of divine intelligence, functioning as your own. You were not the creator of the idea. You were the witness to its emergence from the infinite within you. This substance of intelligence is also the substance of your supply. The world believes that supply is money, resources, objects external to itself that must be acquired. This belief creates a life of pursuit, of anxiety, of fear of loss. But if the substance of all being is this one divine consciousness, then the form that supply takes is secondary. The primary truth is that the supply is already present as the very intelligence that can conceive of a solution, the creativity that can devise a new stream, the perception that can recognize an opportunity. A man may look at his barren bank account and feel a deep and terrifying lack. But if, in that moment, he can turn within and acknowledge that the substance of his being is the same substance that forms universes, he connects to a different reality. He begins to understand that his true need is not for a specific sum of currency, but for the manifestation of the infinite resourcefulness of mind. He may find himself inspired to make a phone call he had not considered, to learn a new skill that opens a door, or to see a latent talent within himself as a viable commodity. The money that eventually appears is merely the outer form, the material symbol, of the inner, substantial activity of intelligence that has been operating all along. This truth becomes your anchor in every storm of human emotion. When a wave of grief or anger or fear arises, the human tendency is to identify with it, to believe, I am sad, or I am angry. You become the emotion and it sweeps you away. But the knowledge that your true substance is divine intelligence allows you to become the witness. You can look at the emotion and understand. This is a temporary storm passing through the atmosphere of my human experience, but it is not the core of what I am. The I that I am is the silent, knowing, intelligent awareness that is observing this storm. This does not suppress the emotion. It allows you to let it flow through without it defining you, without it dictating your actions. From that place of anchored stillness, you can respond with wisdom instead of reacting from a place of turbulence. The emotion is shepherded not by being fought, but by being understood from the higher ground of your true nature. This divine substance is also the substance of your physical body. We are taught to see the body as a mechanical, biochemical entity subject to laws of genetics, age, and disease. This is the view from the level of the sheep. But if your true identity is the one divine consciousness, then your body is an expression, an embodiment of that consciousness. It is a fluid, ever-changing manifestation of thought and belief. The aches, the pains, the illnesses are often the physical echo of mental patterns, of fears, of conflicts held in consciousness. The healing comes not by fighting the disease as an external enemy, but by turning within to the shepherding activity and realizing the truth of your being. You rest in the acknowledgement that the same intelligence that formed the universe from nothingness, that orchestrates the planets and gives life to the seed, is the very substance and activity of every cell in your body. You do not beg for health. You abide in the consciousness that is itself wholeness, and you allow that wholeness to manifest as the harmonious function of the body. The healing that may follow is simply the outer evidence of the inner spiritual fact being realized. To live from this understanding is to walk through the world with a profound sense of freedom. You are no longer a victim of circumstances, because you know that every circumstance is an opportunity for the shepherding activity to reveal itself. A closed door is not a failure. It is the divine intelligence guiding you away from a path that does not serve your highest unfoldment. A difficult person is not a tormentor. They are the perfect catalyst to bring forth from you a greater measure of patience, love, or the courage to set a boundary, all expressions of the one mind. Your life ceases to be a linear struggle and becomes a spontaneous, unfolding revelation. You are not building a life brick by brick through personal effort. You are watching in awe as the divine potter. The shepherding activity that you are forms the clay of your experience into a unique and beautiful vessel. Every moment becomes a sacrament, a holy encounter with the infinite substance of intelligence, appearing as your world, your relationships, your very breath. This brings us to the very heart of the mystery, the point where theoretical understanding meets the fire of actual experience. To know this truth as a concept is one thing. To live from it as your abiding reality is the entire transformation. This inner knowing is not an intellectual conclusion you reach after careful study. It is not a belief you adopt because it sounds comforting. It is a seismic shift in the very core of your identity, a reorientation of consciousness that occurs when the sense of a separate, personal self, the one who strives, fears, and hopes, begins to dissolve into the recognition of its divine source. This knowing is the end of seeking because you have found what you are. It is the end of pleading because you have realized you are one with the answer. This is where most of the world misunderstands the spiritual path. The world practices devotion and prayer from the standpoint of a separate individual reaching out to a separate God. There is a gulf, a distance to be crossed, and the fervency of the prayer is meant to bridge that gap. But the secret we are uncovering reveals that the most profound prayer is not an act of speaking, but an act of listening. It is not a petition sent out, but a silence that receives. It is in this deep, wordless stillness that the mental chatter subsides, the clamor of personal desire grows quiet, and a new kind of awareness dawns. In this silence, you are not a person trying to know God. You are the very space in which the divine knowing is knowing itself. The I that is aware of the silence is itself the presence you were seeking. This is the knowing that surpasses all understanding, because it is not your understanding, it is the self-understanding of God, and you are that. You can observe the difference in your own life when you face a challenge from the level of the personal I. Your mind is a whirlwind of contingency plans, fears, and calculations. You are in a state of resistance, trying to manipulate life to conform to your will. The energy is tense, frantic, and exhausting. But when you can, even for a moment, remember this truth and sink into that inner knowing, everything changes. You stop fighting the wave, and instead you become the ocean. The situation may not have changed outwardly, but your relationship to it has been utterly transformed. You are no longer a leaf tossed in the storm. You are the depth and the stillness beneath the storm. From that place of settled knowing, action may still arise, but it will be inspired, clear, and effortless. It will feel as if it is moving through you, not from you. This is the shepherding activity in motion, and your inner knowing is your consent for it to function. This is not a passive state. It is the most dynamically creative state there is. Consider a musician who has practiced for years. They have learned the scales, the techniques, the theories. This is the level of the personal. The level of acquired knowledge. But when they step onto the stage to perform a great piece, something else must take over. If they remain in the personal mind, the performance will be mechanical, competent, but lacking soul. The magic happens when the personal self recedes, when the musician forgets themselves and becomes a conduit for the music itself. In that state, the fingers find notes that the conscious mind did not plan. The emotion flows with an authenticity that cannot be manufactured. The musician has moved from personal knowledge to a state of inner knowing, where the music is playing itself through them. They are not playing the music is playing them. This is a perfect metaphor for life lived from this principle. You have done the preparatory work, you have gathered your human experiences, and then you let go, allowing the infinite intelligence to express its masterpiece as your life. This knowing also completely redefines your relationship with others. From the personal level, relationships are transactional. We love those who love us. We help those who can help us. We judge those who threaten us. It is a fragile architecture built on the shifting sands of personal preference and need. But when you abide in the inner, knowing of your true nature, you begin to perceive that same nature in everyone you meet, regardless of their outward behavior. You are no longer reacting to the personality, the mask they are wearing. You are speaking to the Christ, the Buddha, nature, the divine consciousness within them. This does not mean you become a doormat for abuse. On the contrary, it gives you the profound clarity to set boundaries with love, because you are protecting the temple of the divine in yourself from the ignorance being expressed by the divine in another. Your compassion becomes unconditional because it is not your personal compassion. It is the compassion of the infinite flowing through you. You forgive not as a moral duty, but because you see that there was never anyone to blame, only a divine being asleep to its own nature, acting out in ignorance. This inner knowing is your direct line to omnipotence. It is the switch that turns on the light of the shepherding activity in every situation. When you are faced with a lack of any kind, be it lack of time, lack of ideas, lack of health, or lack of funds, the solution is never to focus on the lack. The solution is to turn within and reaffirm this knowing. You sit, you become still, and you acknowledge, I am not a limited, separate person facing a problem. I am the dwelling place of the infinite. The intelligence that conceived the galaxies is my intelligence now, and it knows the way through this. The substance that forms worlds is my substance now, and it is appearing as my supply. You do not do this as a mantra, but as a deep, felt sense of reality. You wait in that silence until you feel the shift, until the anxiety releases its grip and a quiet confidence takes its place. That confidence is the evidence that the inner knowing has been activated. From that point forward, your actions will be guided, your words will be inspired, and solutions will begin to appear in your world as if by magic. The miracle is not that God intervened from outside. The miracle is that you finally stepped aside and allowed the God within to be the only operative power in your life. This inner knowing, this profound shift from seeking to being, is not an event that occurs in the noisy marketplace of your thoughts. It cannot be grasped by the intellect, analyzed by the mind, or captured in the net of language. It is a revelation that blossoms only in the fertile ground of inner silence. The world, with its relentless demands and endless distractions, teaches us to value doing over being, speaking over listening, and thinking over knowing. We are conditioned to believe that the answer to any problem is more thought, more effort, more strategy. But the secret path we are walking reveals the exact opposite. The portal to this transformative knowing is not through accumulation, but through subtraction. It is not achieved by adding another concept to your mind, but by letting the mind itself become quiet so that a different kind of intelligence can make itself known. Think of your mind as the surface of a lake. When the winds of worry, planning, and memory blow across it, the surface is choppy and disturbed. You cannot see the depths, you only see the chaotic movement on the surface. This is the state of ordinary human consciousness. It is reactive, fragmented, and sees only reflections and distortions. Now, imagine those winds ceasing. The surface of the lake becomes still, calm, and transparent. Suddenly, you can see all the way to the bottom. You can see the ancient rocks, the hidden life, the true structure of the lake itself. This stillness is not emptiness. It is the condition for a deeper, richer perception. This is the inner silence we speak of. It is in this profound quietude that the truth of "the Lord is my shepherd" ceases to be a phrase you recite and becomes a reality you inhabit. The shepherding activity does not need to shout over the noise of your thoughts. It is a gentle whisper that can only be heard when the clamor of the personal self subsides. You can practice this right now in the midst of your daily life. You are driving your car, and a wave of anxiety about a future meeting arises. The ordinary reaction is to engage with the anxiety, to follow the train of thought. What if I'm not prepared? What will they think of me? This is the choppy surface of the lake. But instead of engaging, you can simply become aware of the anxiety as a sensation in your body. You do not fight it. You do not analyze it. You just notice it. And in that simple act of non-judgmental noticing, a space opens up. The you. That is, noticing is not the anxious thought. It is the silent awareness behind it. For a moment, the winds have stilled. In that moment of silence, a shift occurs. The anxiety may not vanish, but its power over you is broken. It is just a cloud passing through the vast sky of your awareness. And from that silent sky, an intuitive knowing may arise. A clear thought about how to prepare, or simply a deep, unshakable peace that whatever happens, the I am that you are is sufficient. This is how the divine intelligence guides you. It does not send a booming voice from the heavens. It speaks through a sudden, quiet knowing that emerges from the silence. You are trying to remember a name, and you struggle and strain with your personal memory to no avail. The moment you give up and turn your attention to something else, relaxing into a mental silence, the name floats to the surface effortlessly. That is a miniature demonstration of the principle. The answer was not created by your effort. It was always present in the depths of mind, and it revealed itself when the turbulent surface of your personal thinking became still enough to perceive it. All revelation, all inspiration, all genuine guidance functions this way. The great discoveries of science, the masterpieces of art, the moments of profound personal insight, they are all born from this same womb of inner silence, where the limited personal mind gets out of the way and allows the infinite to express itself. This is why all true spiritual practice ultimately leads to meditation, not as a ritual, but as a way of life. It is the continual, gentle returning of your attention from the outer noise to the inner silence. You are washing dishes, and your mind is racing with the events of the day. Then you remember. You feel the warm water on your hands. You notice the shimmer of the soap bubble. You bring your attention completely into the sensation of the present moment. The chatter of the mind recedes into the background. In that simple, mundane act, you have entered the sanctuary. You are practicing the presence of God. You are, in that moment, allowing the shepherding activity to be the only reality, because you are no longer interfering with the personal drama of your thoughts. The activity of washing the dishes is then performed by a divine grace and precision that is not your own. It becomes a sacred act, not because of the dishes, but because of the consciousness in which it is done. This silent awareness is the solvent that dissolves all your problems, because your problems are not real in the absolute sense. They are constructs of the thinking mind. A financial lack is a story the mind tells. A conflict in a relationship is a narrative woven from past hurts and future fears. A health concern is a projection of thought onto the body. When you enter the silence, you step out of the story. You are no longer identified with the character who has these problems. You are the silent, spacious awareness in which the entire drama is playing out. From this vantage point, solutions that were utterly invisible from within the story suddenly become obvious. The right word to heal the relationship emerges. The creative idea for supply appears. The body, no longer burdened by the toxic weight of fearful thoughts, is free to return to its natural state of harmony and wholeness. The silence is not your escape from the world. It is your point of access to the power that heals, restores, and guides the world from within. It is the secret place of the Most High, and it is located nowhere else but at the very core of your own being, waiting patiently for you to cease your mental chatter and come home. This brings us to the ultimate and most liberating implication of this entire revelation. When you have touched that inner silence and felt the presence of the shepherding activity, not as a separate force, but as the very core of your being, a profound realization dawns. You are not a solitary traveler on a path seeking a distant God. You are the living, breathing embodiment of the divine itself. The journey was always an illusion of the mind,